in boxing, you can have guys who are counter punchers, like they're like a Floyd Mayweather is a very like defensive fighter, so you can't hit him and then he'll hit you. That's not how jiu-jitsu works. Like, if you look at the great fighters, they are not counter fighters. They control the match and they dominate. And even though they might have a very even exchange, they're always a step ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. Q&A for BJJ. You want to know what's up? We know what time it is. We'll let you know. Now, if you have a question and you would like to get it featured on the show, go to bulletproofforbjj.com/podcast. You scroll down, there'll be a little red button. You can leave us a voicemail. We will answer your question and feature it on the show. Mr. Joe.
First one coming in from Bodie. Here we go.
Hey boys, Bodie here. I got a question for you. I work away, and I know a lot of people in Australia doing FIFO and that. I work 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off.
Yes.
And I know when I get back from work, those first couple sessions back at Jits can be an absolute beatdown. So I just want to know your thoughts on how you guys would optimize your time away from the Jits gym at work. How would you use that time? I know that we've heard you guys talk about spending time away from the gym. Usually it's, injury or illness or whatever, but if you were fully healthy, how would you guys use that 3 weeks away to come back into the gym, fight and fit and ready to go when you get back from work? Cheers, fellas. Love your work.
All right, Bodie, thank you.
Cheers, Bodie.
Awesome. I mean, me personally, Bodie, you're working, right? So you're away for those 3 weeks. You're pretty busy, but
Bodie, for maybe some people who don't know what FIFO is, fly in, fly out. Bodie's working in a mine.
Yep.
So he lives in a place 3 weeks, works full time,
back.
and then comes back. Probably has 3 weeks off. Or
yeah, for some people, it's kind of 2 to 1. They might be away 3 weeks, come back for a week. Different ratios of that.
It lends itself to inconsistent, like disruption.
Yeah, and then that gets you out of whack with your jits. I'm going to say just stay as fit and healthy as you can while you're working, which can be a challenge. That can be tough. And I would say making sure that you don't get too immobile, like if you're working on a digger or you're doing whatever, like sitting down a lot. Prioritizing mobility is key. And then the other thing I'd say there is having either a workout you always do or having access to, like a chin-up bar or something like that, to do like a mini workout. I mean, Joe, you touched on this relevant to holidays. So where you you just need something simple to get the blood pumping while you're away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I've spoken to a few friends who do that kind of work, and they usually have a pretty good gym facility there.
Right.
Bodie may not have access to that, but assuming you did, keep up your training in full, like strength work, mobility work, because if you're just working and then you basically go back to living quarters and then back to you've usually got more time to train in a setting like that than you would.
You don't have distractions.
Yeah, right. Could be wrong about that. You might be working really crazy long shifts. I don't know. But yeah, I'd be do all the shit, do all your training, strength, mobility, but then also say you want to get back, you want to have jits when you come back, and that's going to be, maybe you add a couple of conditioning sessions which are in place of your jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So you're getting a bit of that high intensity,
keep the lungs going, yeah.
Yeah, so that when you get back to jits, it's not like you've just been stretching and lifting slowly.
Yep.
You've actually got a bit of gas tank that's you're prepared for that rush of stress hormones.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you've also just got to make the concession. It's going to take a week to kind of resync.
Yeah.
And this is the juggle that you face.
Another measure, actually, and this may not be, this might be too boring for you, Bodie, but if you're coming back in, the one thing you don't want is to get drawn into really intense roles in that first week.
No.
So I would be very selective about who I'm training with, and maybe even being intentionally low intensity with your roles that week. So going I'm just going to work defenses this week. I'm not going to be trying to sub people, and I'm just going to be working defenses, because when you work in defenses, you're usually learning to stay calm.
Yeah.
And you're more methodical and that kind of thing. And then week 2, you've kind of broken the ice in that first week, let it rip and smash everyone.
Yes, sir. And also keep your mind in the game. I would be watching matches and just just geeking out on whatever you can, whether you like instructionals or you just watch the super fight that just happened. Keep your brain in the game.
And why not start a little grappling club?
Oh, how good would that be?
Yeah, like start, there's probably some other grapplers there.
Yeah.
Get some mat, like just do the thing. Or maybe you want to teach a couple people, just
Sure.
and so you can ragdoll them.
Yeah, Fight Club. I mean, how easy is it to heel hook someone in steel caps, right?
Maybe.
Just fucking boom.
All right, next one coming in from Jed.
Man, I'm so pumped because I am hydrated by our good friends at Sodi. Sodi are an Australian brand who are keeping all the best athletes hydrated, or maybe you're just a thirsty human and you are trying to be a bit less thirsty. This is my favorite flavor. This is salty grapefruit, seriously underrated, very fresh. Now, essentially, we are human walking oceans. We need to have sodium, potassium, and magnesium in our blood. And that's what these guys have done. So Jason Kale at Sodi have put together this beautiful product. And you, my friends, can get a discount when you order with the discount code Bulletproof15 for 15% off. And you can stay very hydrated.
How's it, JT and Joey? It's Jed here. So to get into my story, 2 days ago I was wrestling a guy, absolute tank of a human, about double my height and weight. He was a beginner, and when I got double underhooks on him, we kind of rhino charged me, and we landed in a bit of an awkward position with my leg sort of trapped, and it's kind of like knee barred. So I heard a couple loud crunches and pops, and just came back from the hospital now. It seems like I've torn my MCL with damage to my meniscus and my LCL. So I'm going to be needing surgery in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But yeah, I just wanted to reach out, and I guess my question is about rehab and how we can go about that, making it as smooth as possible. I know you guys have had your fair share of injuries, and also just building confidence once I am back on the mat, because I know that's going to be quite a challenge being off for so long. But yeah, appreciate you guys so much. Massive fan of the show and your programs. Been using it for a while.
My guy. Yeah. Thanks, man. Sorry to hear that. I think it is a shock when it happens, and then you're like, okay, well, how do I get past this? And it sounds like we have a South African accent in there.
Could be.
It could be. Shout out if you've got access to surgeons, and generally if you do and you go see the surgeon and they have a plan for you, rehab is usually a part of that. They will usually pair you up with some kind of therapist to get you back to walking and capable. But they don't actually care about your jiu-jitsu, right? They're like, oh, you can walk, you can move, good enough, move on. What will be really important for you is to make sure that you've reestablished your range of motion. Like, I can bend my knee almost fully, fully lock out my knee. Like, that will be quite an important thing before you go back to jiu-jitsu. But then also trying to establish some kind of activity habit, because it can be very negative for your mental health when you've had a serious knock and your knee hurts and you're like, how can I get back? Part of the health and the confidence thing is slowly building your capacity, whether that's like a stationary bike or walking up and down stairs or whatever it is. It's good for you to have a measure and for you to have that idea of progress, because just relying on a physio or someone who doesn't know you doesn't get what you're trying to do. And you're trying to get back to jiu-jitsu. So you're trying to build a capacity which is well beyond just walking. So what I'd say is if you can establish something which can give you a sense of progress in these trying times, that will be key. Mr. Knee Surgery Joe, talk to me.
Yeah, bro, spewing. That's shit news. Such is the game. Try and find a physio or an exercise physiologist that works with athletes and is good with knee rehab specifically. I think if you can find that, and you may not have the benefit, but even if it's someone like, there isn't someone like that in your city, but you had to consult with someone online from another part of the world, it would be so worthwhile, because they will guide you through the rehab process in the most optimized way.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas like JT was saying, your surgeon will just do the bare minimum. And then if you just get some run-of-the-mill physio that doesn't understand jiu-jitsu, doesn't really care that much.
Or performance athletes in general.
Right, like they might be a little bit better than what the surgeon was going to kind of advise on, but not much. So if you can really find that person that's like, bro, these are the capacities you need to rebuild. This is how we're going to do it. And then the second thing I would suggest is like, there's no rush for you to get back to jits. You might really want to rush back to it, but here's the deal. You're going to have that knee for the rest of your life. So the better job of rehab you can do now, the better off the rest of your life with that knee is going to be. So like, let it take whatever it takes. And that person, that physio or EP will tell you, hey, you can go back to jits now. Maybe just start with some drilling, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to lay out a timeline for you. So you just follow their advice.
And then, come back to us once you had the surgery and you've done that, because there is definite things you can do once you've kind of reached the potential of your rehab, which will give you the confidence to get back on the mat, and we can help you with that.
Last question for the day, Chris.
I'm excited.
Why's that?
We have an apparel sponsor, Parry Athletic.
Bro, George came through, messaged us on the Instagram, said he's been following our program for ages. He's getting stronger and more mobile. And he's got this cool gear company called Parry, and he wants to send us some stuff.
And he told me that his mission was to create the best pair of training shorts ever.
Yeah, he wanted something that he could lift and roll in, and that could accommodate thick, muscular thighs and hips.
And that suits us.
Speaks to us.
Also, what I like is I love the colorful design. It actually looks really cool.
I am the most colorful dude on the mats these days, hands down.
I think the thing that I've loved about it is just it feels good. It feels good. It looks good. And you, ladies and gentlemen, can get a discount when you go to checkout. If you go to parryathletics.com, put in the code bulletproof20 and you get 20% off. Oh, yeah.
Hey guys, Chris here. So far, loving all of the content. So my question today is about the mindset you have while rolling. So I'm wondering specifically about intensity and kind of what should we be focusing on. Right now, I seem to have more of a passive style, and I don't know if it's a bad thing. So I'm 6 months in, and I haven't actually submitted anyone yet. What ends up happening usually is I kind of sit there waiting for a chance to sweep or fight for position, especially against like the younger, more athletic guys who kind of just steamroll me from the start, it feels like. And then kind of work to a better place from there. And sometimes it works, especially against the guys that are more around my level. But I'm wondering if it's normal to feel this way at this point, or maybe I should kind of change my mindset. I also don't know if it's just because I'm just older than them, a little heavier, slower, and maybe this is just the way I can do it. But I'm just excited to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, Chris. Well, look, man, I'll be honest, like, it doesn't matter what you think might be your advantages or disadvantages. Working with what you've got is key, and like being a bit bigger or a bit slower is not a disadvantage. It's just making sure that you can make that work for you. In terms of like mindset, one of the things that really kind of switched up for me at Blue Belt was I was kind of counter fighting. I was letting people do stuff and then countering what they were doing. But if the person you're doing that to is better than you, you're never going to get back in the game. And it was really pointed out to me by a guy called Eduardo Santoro. Edu, he's one of the founders of Sia Palista. He lives in California now. Amazing competitor in his lifetime.
How tall is he?
6'2", 6'3", slim, but very strong, and actually was not from Alliance, but had beaten a lot of the Alliance guys. So he had respect, and they would let him come in and cross-train because he was so good. And he said to me, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Why are you letting me do this?" And I'm like, I don't know, because shouldn't I let you? He's like, "No, don't let me.
Give some, take some."
Yeah, I'm a black belt, bro. Like, you got to give me whatever you got. If you're going for your sweep, or you need to go there as soon as you can. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, you should never counterfight. You should always be leading. You should always be controlling. He's like, can you counterfight? Yeah. Should you? No. Like, he was like, no. He's like, man, like, be first. He was always saying to me, like, he's like, he wasn't necessarily talking about being aggressive, more that, like, if you know you need certain grips,
tenacious.
Go for the grips straight away. And he's like, because if you wait for me, you're never going to win this. You're never going to be able to get back in the game. So one of the big things that I changed in my mentality from blue belt to purple belt was asserting a certain level of control. And, you know, sometimes that's hard if the person's better than you, but you should always be fighting for that. You shouldn't let the other person get what they want and then fight your way out of it. Because sometimes you, especially when you're new, you're never getting back in the game.
Yeah, I agree. I got a story about a guy that I've trained with a couple times at an academy near my place.
Yeah.
And he's a purple belt. He's an older fella. He's a big guy. And he's real chill, lovely dude. And I believe he's like a Jiu-Jitsu, traditional Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
Oh, right.
And this guy, the first couple of times we trained together, I passed his guard real easy. And then you got him in like side control or north-south, whatever, and he just fucking reverses you every time. He's got this sneaky jiu-jitsu shit that he does. Like traps your arm and and I'm like, this motherfucker, he does it all the time.
Okay.
And then the second time we trained, he actually got me with it again, and I was like, that's right, don't let him do that. And then I just stopped letting him do that, and I just kept submitting him from top position, right?
Right.
And we had this chat about, and I'm like, bro, like that's such a cool thing that you can do, and that's a great thing that you've got there, but don't just rest on that, because for someone who is a bit more skilled, I'm gonna eventually catch a read on that, and then exactly. And so, you know, to Chris, like to your question, like it sounds like you got a good thing going with that counter piece, but don't just be that guy. Also go into some roles and think, okay, I'm going to flip it on this one, and I'm going to go for top position, and I'm going to try and be more controlling, and I'm going to be leading, like JT was saying. So it's not to say that one approach is better than the other, but try to diversify what you're doing a little bit.
I actually just think that we know this, but we don't think about it. Like in boxing, you can have guys who are counter punchers. Like they're like a Floyd Mayweather is a very like defensive fighter, so you can't hit him and then he'll hit you. That's not how jiu-jitsu works. Like if you look at the great fighters, they are not counter fighters. They control the match and they dominate. And even though they might have a very even exchange, they're always a step ahead. And you might have felt that rolling a higher belt where you're like, man, I feel like I'm 10 moves behind. For you to be one move ahead, you must be thinking ahead. So in terms of having control in jiu-jitsu and getting better, I would say that you must always look to take that first move and look to stay a move ahead. And if you don't know enough jiu-jitsu, take your time. You're early in the journey.
There it is. Guys, thank you for the questions. We'll hit you with the next Q&A next week. If you want to get some questions in, bulletproof@bjj.com, hit the podcast tab, scroll down, hit the red button, leave us a voicemail, and you'll get featured on the show. Thank you, everyone.
Us.